Paying for college can feel restrictive, but before you make any decision on whether you can afford to go to college, you should know what structures are in place to help fund your college education. Schools will advertise the cost of attendance without any financial aid, but you'll not actually have to pay that much. Grants, scholarships, and loans can help students pay for college, especially those who need it most. By subtracting your financial aid from the full cost of attendance, you can come up with a solution that enables you to afford higher education.
Just because it says it lists that it costs $46,000 to go to said institution does not mean that it's going to cost you or a particular family $46,000 to go to the college. And it's also important for you to understand that whatever it costs for you to attend that institution, a financial aid package will be put in place so that you wouldn't have to put out any detrimental amount any given year for you to attend that college.
The key, regardless of where the student is attending, is to apply early. Don't rule out scholarships. Apply for scholarships as well, and communicate with the financial aid office of the institution or more than one colleges that they want to attend. Make sure that they have all their paperwork done for each of those institutions and that they're being considered for everything that might be available. Beyond the federal aid that any college will consider the student for, they will also package any state aid that the student is eligible for and that they have available. That's why you want to be early. Some states have individual applications at the state level, so doing their research will be important. And then the institution will have funding sources available. Every institution has something, some more than others, that they determine how they're going to prioritize that among their applicants. And being early and asking questions and communicating will help the student be in the best position to be considered.
Financial aid offices look at your results on a form called the FAFSA to understand your family's financial situation. Fill the FAFSA out as soon after January 1st of your senior year as possible, because financial aid is provided on a first-come, first-served basis. You must fill out the FAFSA to be eligible for any type of financial aid. The most important result from the FAFSA is your expected family contribution. If this number is lower than the cost of attending a given institution, then you may qualify for need-based financial aid. Some schools, mostly private, may require you to fill out additional financial aid forms, such as the CSS profile, so be aware of that while going through the financial aid process as well.
It's going to ask about the student's income that they made in the last tax year. So for this year, 2010, 2011, students were asked questions about the 2009 tax year. And it will ask about their parents, if the student is younger than 24, and their income as well as assets. How many students are in the family, how many are going to college, and then a number will be calculated called the expected family contribution. And that number is going to be calculated from all of that data that was included on the FAFSA.
You also need to be aware that you have to have your taxes done for the previous year in order to complete the form. If you don't have that done, then they can do what they call a financial aid estimator. So they can estimate your financial aid or your expected family contribution based on the previous year's taxes. And then once your current one is finished, then they can finalize that.
There's a website, FAFSA Forecaster, that the federal government has developed that helps families understand what their expected family contribution might be, what their aid package might be. So families with juniors or younger might want to consider that to begin to get a feel for the process and understand the terminology and evaluate, if their circumstances don't change dramatically, what they might be eligible for.
Need-based grants play a major role in financing a college education and are not repaid by the recipient. The financial aid office at each college or university that admits you will look at the results from your FAFSA and determine how much financial aid they can give you. If you have serious financial need, or if the school is well endowed, much of this aid will be in the form of grants. After admitting you, each institution will send you an award letter stating the amount of grants, merit scholarships, and loans they can offer. But many schools cannot offer you enough grant money to cover your entire financial need, so loans and scholarships may be necessary. A school's ability to offer you enough financial assistance depends on the size of the school's endowment and their commitment to covering the demonstrated need of each student.
I know there are plenty of students who say, well, I'm not going to go to college because my family can't afford it. And I say, well, I mean, in some ways, if your family hasn't planned and saved, you're probably more likely to get grant money or serious financial aid that you won't have to pay back than someone who has set aside money for college. So I don't want students to use that as their reason for choosing where they're going to go.
You need to pay attention to how particular institutions hand out financial aid and how they treat assets. And you'll get an award letter, and you can compare them. You have the same application coming from any particular family, but then you may have different financial aid results based on how the institution awards that aid. So.
Financial aid works differently at public and private schools. The full cost of living on campus at public schools is about $20,000 before financial aid. For private schools, this number can be above $40,000. However, private schools offer more financial aid than public schools, so the out-of-pocket expenses for families are hopefully manageable. Sometimes, with financial aid, private schools may even cost less, but the ability to provide a substantial amount of aid varies by school, so do your research and contact the school to determine your chances of receiving enough money to go there.
Families need to know that through this economic downturn, there is a lot of financial aid for families in those situations. And the first message is not to get discouraged. I mentioned earlier that many politicians and organizations are saying there are billions of dollars that go unclaimed in financial aid. So you need to know that there is money for family circumstances that have changed, or students who come from families that are low income or even middle income. There are lots of money, state and federal grants for you to attend college.
When it comes to getting scholarships, nobody knows how it works quite like Sam Lim. After receiving enough scholarships to pay his way through college, Sam started a company called Scholarship Junkies to help other students find and receive scholarships.
A winning scholarship profile usually has one area in which they've excelled. And that could be sports, arts, academics, leadership, service, whatever it is. And if you can make that your central theme, then you'll be in a better shape. Right? And that will help you with your opportunities. Now the second part about this process is it is a numbers game. Right? That the more you apply to, the more opportunities you have. Right? Again, it comes back to what's the only way you're guaranteed of not getting one is if you don't apply. At the same time, you don't want to spend your time applying for so many scholarships that you're not giving your best to your applications. Because I would rather spend 5 hours working on one application and do a really good job and turn it in than use that 5 hours to do 6 different scholarships and do a poor job on those.
There are two main types of scholarships, institutional and private. Institutional scholarships come from colleges and universities themselves. Generally, simply applying to the school makes you eligible, but there could be some you actually need to apply for. That's part of why communicating with admissions and financial aid offices is a good idea. Private scholarships come from all sorts of places, like companies and organizations, and always need to be applied for.
Because it's so competitive, or seen as so competitive, obviously to write themselves off. But that then doesn't get you to the point where you actually understand that scholarships are work in very different circles, or really different area. Like there's national scholarships, which everyone can apply for, and there's local scholarships, which you have a great shot at, that you might be competing against 2 other students. That's a lot better than competing against 10,000 other students.